New AEW signings, new ROH signings, a whole bunch of information on the TV deal and everything that you can expect from ROH going forward. Plus, we're going to talk about Colt Cabana, timestamps in the description down below. Speaking of Colt Cabana, let's just jump into it. We know there was a report a while ago from Sean Ross Sapp kind of detailing some stuff about the issues between CM Punk and Colt Cabana, which would almost result in Colt Cabana leaving the company. And there's just been a lot of talk about this, and I think everybody's just kind of throwing their 2 cents into it. Well, Tony Khan did actually confirm on the media call today that Colt Cabana is going to be working with ROH moving forward, and that's going to begin with Death Before Dishonor this weekend. Honestly, this is great news for Colt Cabana. He was a big name in ROH, and truth be told, AEW's roster is bloated. And I just think when you're starting a company like this and you got 2 companies, you're trying to handle everything, Tony Khan is going to need the help. I think Colt Cabana is a great asset in this situation, so why the hell not? And truth be told, you know, when it comes to ROH and this separate roster and exclusivity and stuff, there's a lot of blurred lines. There's going to be talent working with both companies and whatnot, and I think it's really important that ROH does kind of have some self-identity. And I think the way to do that is by having some people who are familiar with the product be involved with the product. And I think if you can do that with Colt Cabana, it ultimately makes the most sense. Now, speaking of Ring of Honor, I think it's really important that we detail some of the information that has been found out about ROH going forward. For one, Tony Khan did reveal that AEW and ROH roster sharing is pretty much going to be a normal thing. You're going to see a lot of cross-promotion between the 2 brands, and he also did confirm that New Japan having a relationship with ROH could very well be on the table, especially considering FTR did have some sort of involvement with the ROH Tag Team Championship belts, and of course New Japan as well. Tony Khan also did confirm that he is confident that ROH will get a weekly television show, but doesn't want to do it until the distribution makes sense. He is still in talks with Warner Bros. Discovery, and they did make the deal for ROH to be on Bleacher Report. Now, we are going to talk a little bit more about this going forward, but it is important for me to mention that when it comes to the TV deal stuff, until they have it announced, it's really important that they try to build some consistency with this brand, because until they do so, I think it's going to be a major problem for the company. Using AEW television time to promote ROH, I just feel like it is definitely a step in the wrong direction. So hopefully they get that TV deal. When it does happen, Tony Khan did mention that he believes ROH will be popular enough to fill up bigger venues, but he also did praise Universal Studios in Orlando, which is where they tape AEW Dark. I think it's not a bad idea whatsoever, at least to start off with television. I think once you make that decision to do shows in the impact zone, right? Like, I think it could make a lot of sense. But when it comes to the TV part, that's the thing that seems to be most important to me, because without a TV deal, everything else is just kind of randomly thrown together, which is some of the complaints that people have had so far about Death Before Dishonor. Now, with that being said, Tony Khan believes that this show is going to make people happy, and the ROH Pure Scoreboard will be coming back. That's going to return with Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia, so that is great news for the company as well. We are going to see that ROH Pure Scoreboard return. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy that. Tony Khan does not believe he will do hybrid championships between ROH and AEW, but he would definitely have outside championships defended across shows. So AEW title belts defended on ROH, ROH title belts defended on AEW. It's not a bad idea, but ultimately, I think I think you really got to make ROH stand out on its own at some point. He also did reveal that there probably won't be a ranking system in ROH like AEW, but he isn't too sure. He does like the idea of having different approaches. I want to make it very clear the ranking system is one of my biggest complaints when it comes to AEW, so I really, really hope he does not replicate that. In fact, FTR being on the #1 ranking for like so many weeks for the tag team division, but not actually having a tag team match is another great example as to why it doesn't work. Also, I thought this was really interesting. Willow Nightingale, somebody we've seen on AEW and ROH TV, has not actually been signed to the company yet, or Tony Khan is not talking about the deal in hand. So I just found that to be very interesting as well, because she's on Dynamite, she's on Rampage, she's on the ROH pay-per-view, but we don't know exactly what is happening with her. Now, there is so much more to be said about ROH, but I think the next step is to talk about the Briscoes, because the Briscoes have officially signed exclusively to Ring of Honor. And honestly, this is kind of a head scratcher, because if ROH is going to have a TV deal with Discovery, then why aren't the Briscoes showing up on AEW Dynamite beforehand? There's obviously been a lot of talk from the previous regime at Warner Brothers that basically, you know, they didn't want Briscoes. You know, they didn't want Briscoes on TV because of the controversies. And now, you know, if they're going to be signed exclusively to ROH, that means they won't be on Impact. This means that if ROH has a TV deal with Warner Bros. Discovery, I feel like there's going to be some sort of issue, right? That's the head scratcher. Now, ultimately, this is great news. To restore the original feel of ROH, you got to have the Briscoes. Yes, it sucks, I think, not having the Briscoes on Impact. You know, it's a blow to Impact, but I feel like this is a good move for ROH and the future other companies. So the Briscoes are officially exclusively signed to the company. I think it's great news. I don't really have an issue with that. And I also want to point out that Tony Khan did, in fact, confirm that there are more talent signed to a developmental deal. Now, he mentioned developmental deal. He didn't disclose names. I don't know which people are actually signed to the company at this point. We know the Briscoes are signed. We know that AEW just made a new signing, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But I'm going to assume guys like Harland and Slim J and Arya Daivari could very well be part of that trio that may have been signed to ROH AEW as well. Again, Tony Khan won't disclose names, but he did mention the Briscoes have signed, and he mentioned that more people have been signed to developmental, but again, he is not revealing those names. Now, with that being said, that brings us to our final story of today's video, and that is because AEW has made a new signing, and it shouldn't shock you. Troy Donovan, aka Cole Carter in AEW, has officially been signed to AEW. He is under a deal with AEW according to Fightful Select, and this is very interesting news. Remember, WWE actually killed off Troy Donovan on WWE NXT. Literally, he went swimming with the fishes. He returned to AEW on Shark Week, and of course, you know Tony Khan had to do it on purpose. However, Cole Carter was released from WWE due to what was said to be a wellness policy violation, and he had plans to return maybe a year down the road, but that might not actually be the case depending on this agreement with AEW. So Tony Khan did make it official. He is joining AEW, and what are they going to do? He got a lot of praise from AEW, and, you know, I think he looked good, man. He looked great in his match against Ricky Starks, so this is great news. Ultimately, we'll see what happens. We'll see what kind of plans that they have for him going forward. But until then, we really don't know. Another WWE guy signed to AEW, and the roster continues to get bloated. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think down below.